under very strict orders to be funny.
So far, so good?
Yes. Seems like an unfair challenge, but I'm going to try to behave and do as I'm told. This week and tonight has been hard and very sad. And of course, that's appropriate and that's correct. No parent should have to say goodbye to their child. And we shouldn't have to say goodbye to a friend and a community member who is so young and so full of potential as Danny. But Danny, as I remember him, like that, he was a grinning and mischievous, bordering on downright impish and he, for one, would not have been able to remain somber for all of this time. And I know that somewhere he's wishing that we would all lighten up a bit and have a laugh in his memory. Danny became a student of mine in my second year of teaching. And at the time I was barely a decade older than the students in my class, and it showed. It was immediately clear that at the time, remember he was 12, math homework he could take or leave. And time management, not yet his forte. But Danny had a highly sophisticated sense for talking smack. And his friends and his loved ones. This was a point of connection for us, and something I could really appreciate. I quickly learned, though, that I wasn't safe or considered out of my Danny. Once I was checking in on him while he was working an after-school shift in Maria's, and I noticed a sheet posted on the side of the refrigerator behind the counter, and it had Danny's familiar scrawled handwriting on it. And from my vantage point, I could read the words, "If you tap that pencil one more time, I'm going to shove it up your nose until it pokes your brain. And if you break my stapler, I'll break your face." These words were familiar to me. I had said these words. Apparently, I had a habit of somewhat colorfully redirecting student misbehavior. Danny had noticed and been diligently recording and compiling all of them for a year. And the poster he had made brightly and boldly entitled, "Corey's Threats of Violence," was displayed proudly on the wall, his end-of-year gift to me. So in the end, I would catch flack from Danny about as well as anyone. But where Danny's talents really came to light, where he really shined, was when antagonizing his dear, sweet, conscientious, detail-oriented, and safety-conscious mother to him. He really had pushing her buttons down to almost an art. And when I discovered that, I remember thinking, now here's a project I can get behind. I won't or I can't go into all of the details of how that played out. But suffice it to say that Danny and I took great pleasure in crafting hastily planned and half-thought-out projects. Partly for the sake of exciting projects, yes, but largely for the fun of presenting them to the front office for approval. Here, though, is where I have to stop for a second and give Therese her due. Everyone here knows that Therese cares deeply for the safety and well-being of children. She can think through all of the contingencies and idea and point out where there is a risk or a liability that's not being properly considered or planned through. And she does this from an authentic and fierce sense of maternal protection for all kids. But Therese also deeply knew the son she had given birth to. And a great, great gift that I saw her give Danny was to allow his bold and adventurous spirit to unfold as he grew, despite the grave risks that that inevitably entails. Case in point, in 2005, as I was working with Danny and the rest of the middle school class to design our first service-oriented adventure trip, news of the catastrophic damage to New Orleans dominated the news during Hurricane Katrina. The kids proposed that we travel there for our service trip, and I helped them flesh out plans that we presented to the parent community. Turns out this was not a popular idea. For whatever reason, parents were not on board with allowing a brand new teacher, who looked 12 at the time, to drive 15 kids for 2 days to a high-crime urban area that was on the verge of imposing martial law in the wake of an unprecedented disaster. That presentation did not go well. But afterwards, Therese found me, and she pulled me aside to say that Danny was dead set on going to New Orleans. And while she thought it was as crazy as the next parent did, if I would still take him, she wanted him to follow that dream. So we went. Our spring break that year consisted of 2 days each way in a van full of donated school supplies and 5 days touring the wreckage, repairing bicycles, serving meals, and sorting donated food and clothing. We should have given Therese a break. She deserved it after all for granting us such a long leash, though we couldn't help ourselves. While driving, we gunned it briefly on quiet straightaways so that we could send her photos of our speeding speedometer. Danny wrote home to say that he had visited his first topless bar. It was topless because the hurricane had ripped it. This past week, while sorting through Danny's belongings, Therese found a note. I'm sure it's a journal entry that I forced him to write while we were traveling so I could present some academic benefits of our trip. He wrote about our tour of St. Bernard's Parish and the shocking extent of the damage that we had seen. But then he went on to write that we had had fun being tourists as well, that we had toured the French Quarter and eaten beignets. It was heavenly, he wrote, and then ended with a very eloquent Danny-esque, and that's it. From everyone here tonight, Danny, we loved every minute of knowing you, of being your teachers and your parents, your colleagues and your friends. It looks like our hastily planned and ill-conceived road trip is over for now, but it was heavenly, and that's it.